Cool. Well, Adrian, it is an honor and a pleasure to be speaking with you. And kind of to start or to like frame this whole conversation, as I was doing research on you and just through our conversations, I have made like I've just seen like a lot of things and a lot of awesome qualities in you as a person, as a creative, as a builder, as a community builder. But one of those qualities that I have seen or seen expressed most from you is like honesty. Like I just through interacting with you on Twitter and through seeing you and speaking to you, it's been like it's just occurred to me like you are probably one of the most just authentic, real, honest people I think I've ever met. So I just want to frame that because it is, it's incredible, man. But to give the listeners kind of a just a high level overview of who you are. Yeah, give us a high level overview of who you are and where you're at now.
Okay, so first of all, like, thank you for that introduction. I think, like, you set the bar too high. No, but I
No.
appreciate it, and I can say the same your way. Like, and I always one of the things in the beginning is that I got super surprised by the people that are behind a Twitter profile and the connections that we are all making. But yeah, to answer your question, like that question of who you are, define yourself in 30 seconds is something that I always struggle with. So I came up with this definition of myself, which is the same I have in my Twitter bio. That is, I'm a person with too many interests and talents, to the point that this became like a bliss and a curse. But yeah, I like to. I have some background in a startup. I have always been a creative. I love design, and I love that too many things that I'm using a journey of finding how to channel everything into one project, maybe, or to a few things. But along the way, I love to have conversations with anyone, like exchange some value, like and yeah, have genuine conversation like what we are about to have. So a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to have you, Adrian. Um, I'd love to kind of start this conversation by almost just getting to know more of who you were as a person and kind of almost creating a timeline for the listeners. Kind of explaining like where you came from, what your interests were when you were younger, and how that kind of developed into where you are now. I mean, just from the research that I did on you, like man, you've got a lot of expertise and experience, from being in architecture school to then jumping into multiple startups and creating multiple businesses now. I'm really excited to kind of to unpack that and just see more of who you are and what drives you. So let's kind of start from, like tell me more about the 15 to 17-year-old Adrian. What was he doing? What were your interests?
Absolutely. No, let's go. Let's do that throwback. So, since I was a child, I always like, and now I reflect about it, and I notice the pattern that is,
Mm,
I always love to build things. Like I always love to build projects, and I don't know, maybe when I was a child, my favorite game was the Lego.
oh yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
so maybe that's something that started the thing. At the same time, I like it to draw. I like it to draw.
Mm,
So it was like a combination that was setting the foundations to go through leaning on the design part, but also having some entrepreneurship spirit. That actually, like the entrepreneurial spirit, I didn't realize until I was in the middle of the degree, as you
mm,
mentioned, like when I was in the architecture school. But yeah, to focus on the 15, 17 years old, I was jumping from one thing to the next, but without even stressing about. I think like when I got my first laptop, my own laptop, not like a family laptop or something like that, was when I was 12 years old. Um, Pretty soon, like that became like a tool that
Mm,
explodes my curiosity, because now with the access of the internet, I was blown away. I remember just simple things like spending my afternoons just like watching YouTube videos about parts of the world, or people like doing their lives, and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I also watch just on Google Maps, like going from one side of the other to the world, like just getting into different street views and cultures. So
yeah,
the internet really, like, more and more, I realize how grateful I am of having this tool, because it has uh, it has make an exponential effect on my curiosity. And
mm,
everything started with, as I mentioned, I like to draw. So I don't know why, when I was 12 years old, I started to find like what I wanted to do. And I don't
mm,
know which was the reference, but I started to have some um, reference about architecture and architect. So it's fascinating that I came to the idea of becoming an architect pretty young, I would say. And I didn't question that through my teenagers years. But at the same time, I was jumping from one thing to the next. So when I got my first smartphone, I started to take pictures, and soon I wanted to uh, take better pictures. So I jump into YouTube and see how can I take better pictures, and jump into framing parameters and that kind of thing. All that you could do with a smartphone of back in the day, which wasn't even an iPhone. So
right.
um, so that got me into yeah, times have changed too much, but um, from that I was like, oh, I really like this kind of photography thing, so I'm going to jump more into having a reflex camera, DSLR, and that got me into, oh, this also have a video feature, so I'm going to try to make videos. And it's like, oh, now I know Photoshop, and I also getting into Premiere Pro. What's that other tool that is like Illustrator? So I jumped into,
Wow.
okay, graphics design, and now I was making like covers and designs and posters and that kind of thing. And I always channeling that knowledge, and that going from one interest to the next through YouTube to learning new things. So I was like that. And when I was 17 years old, just about to go to the architecture school, which by the way, I wasn't a great student. So it was almost like a miracle that they accept me into the school. But I was in a position that I was super kind of lost, but because I was facing for the first time in my life that amount of interest and talents, that I started to say, like, do I want to do what I said in the beginning, that I wanted to become
Mm,
an architect and I didn't question that? Or do I like photography or graphic design or advertisement or that kind of thing? So everything was revolving around design, so I figured it out, okay, if I'm able to enter into architecture, potentially later I can do everything else. But maybe if I just focus on graphic design, maybe I will always be curious about what if I was entering architecture or things like that. So, so it was fascinating because through these years, many of my friends didn't know what to do with their life, which I know that is a common struggle around that time, because it's like, bro, it seems like everyone is asking you to know what you are going to do for the next 60 or 50 or 60 years of your life. And now with the current world, it's like, bro, I can't even guarantee what I'm going to do tomorrow. So
right.
things change so fast.
Yeah, they
This
do.
is like,
They really do. And that's an interesting
yeah.
point that you say, not to cut you off, but like, I don't know what it is, but from an early age, I don't know if it's like a societal expectation or culture, but there seems to be this expectation of, maybe when you're around 12, 15, um, like you're expected to be looking for what you're going to do in the future, what you're going to be studying in college, what you're going to be, doing for the rest of your life. And you had mentioned in kind of your story, like you from an early age at 12 had some understanding of like, hey, architecture, I think is kind of my path. How did you come to that realization? Were your parents architects? Do you have family that are architects, or how did you stumble into that?
So that is something that keeps fascinating me in a sense because I don't know where that came from. My parents are no architects, neither no one in my family or close to my family. In fact, like most of my family never even go to university.
Hmm.
So I don't have that I kind of was the first one to go to university. So that's going to be something that is going to that was an impact for future decisions that I took further on in the timeline, but we will get there. But yeah, I think like one of the best habits that especially my mother implemented in me was that we spent maybe Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons going to the library, and
Mm.
she allowed me to use watch different books, and when I have saw a book that was like I was interested in, she bought the book for me. So I kind of maybe that was pre-internet, and that allowed me to just rumble around different topics and things, and just pick one and observe and go to the other. So so honestly, maybe the biggest influence in me taking the architecture line maybe was legal, actually, and I just
Hmm.
reflecting about that right now, but probably is.
Interesting. I like how, like, as you were talking, you mentioned like you would go to the library and you know almost like I kind of got this picture of you walking through the library, looking at books, kind of pulling a couple down, looking at the covers, flipping through the pages, and almost like your your I don't know how to describe it, but your like I can see from like just that story, your interests aren't just isolated to one thing. It's broad, and you have tons of interests. And I wonder if that experience or that habit that your mom, instilled in you as a young kid, I wonder if that kind of was one of the sparks that led you to be so multidimensional now.
Probably is, and probably also our current generation and the society we live on plays a role, because I think like our grandparents, basically when they were a child, probably what they do is basically they either did the same job that their parents do. So it's like
Yeah.
we are this, we sell bread, or we are carpenters or whatever.
Hmm.
So you are going to become that. So it was more the apprentice, kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
you learn the job and you get better over time, and that's your
Hmm.
thing. You don't even get to choose. And if you don't have an option, they probably send you to someone who did one thing and the journey was the same.
Yeah.
Um, our parents' generation make an iteration where they didn't have to do the same thing that their parents or grandparents did. They have more choice depending on the circumstances and situation, but it was more the narrative like go study a career that has the potential to land a good job, be a good student, land a good job, uh,
Hmm.
climb the corporate ladder, and yeah, earn a good salary, have a family. So it was like always, it was all prescribed. It was okay. This is the roadmap. This is the blueprint. And this is what you have to do. Uh, and I think like we are getting to the more a step further, where we have powerful tools like the internet. Not even books are the base, but also the internet and new technologies that keep appearing every day, that
Yeah.
give us a span of opportunities that was way bigger than what we have. And I can see that happening even in a short term, because I remember when I was 17 and 18, and even myself with the access to the internet and everything, I consider that I only have in my vision like this amount of opportunities, like what I could potentially do, but the reality was like way bigger. Like it was like there are endless opportunities. So that could be some positive, I think, and negative, depending on the person and depending on the circumstances, because at the same time, it's like just throwing a kid into a candy shop and make him decide, and it's like there are
Right.
many things that I want to do, and there is only one life. But at the same time, more and more I came to realize that the common saying of life is short is just because the people who are telling that are our parents. And yeah, if all your life was to spend 5 years in a university to land a job, to spend 45 years working, to one day finally retire, to realize that you don't have health. I don't know if you have money, but definitely you don't have time. And like now you have time and but you don't have health, maybe you have money. So that kind of
Right.
parameters, but it's like, yeah, it's like if you spend your whole day waiting for the dinner, you are just going to go through the day without doing nothing. Instead, if you go through the day focusing on what you are doing each time and enjoying each part, you can accomplish many things in a day, and you can reflect in the night like, whoa, I went to the gym, I did this work, I met with this one and the other, and that kind of thing. So I think life is the same. Like, yeah, we can skip through life doing one job, doing one thing, and waiting for the end to finally have the reward, or we can just experiment and go on periods of 2 years or 3 years from one thing to the other, and going from one place to the other of the world. And when we are old, like we are going to look back and say, well, we did many things, So it's kind of
Yeah.
keeping a balance between doing a lot, but not just for being busy, but being meaningful and having like a lot of experience.
Right. Yeah. Beautifully put, Adrian. It it makes me think. I don't know if it was a specific tweet that you posted or if it was my kind of summary of a collection of tweets, but I remember you talking about like choosing or people either choosing between kind of like like a maximized life or maximized profit. And you can't necessarily have both. Well, you can in some circumstances, but you see a lot of people pursue the maximized profit first, whether that's going to school, kind of taking the road most traveled, and yeah, maximizing their profit and going throughout their days thinking about like, oh, I don't know, like I'm waiting for the day where I can use this money, or I'm waiting for the day that I can, really do what I want. But for now, I have to kind of grind it out. I have to work long, hard hours to earn the money so that I can, enjoy my life for the last, maybe 30 or 20 years of their life. But there's that other side where it's,
Yeah.
the maximized life where you're experimenting, you're not taking life so seriously, and maybe taking paths that haven't been traveled as much, and um, you know using each day and seeing each day as a gift, and living to your fullest extent or to the best of your abilities each day, as opposed to thinking about the end.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of relation with how society is treating religion, because I
Mm,
think like back in the day, last century, religion was pretty present into the society, but Western religion, so Christianity and this kind of thing, and especially Christianity. By the way, I don't have a position. Like I always said, like it's fascinating to me that you can't go and vote until you are over 18, or you
mm,
can go and drive until you pass a test. But sometimes, like, religion is forced in early days of your when you are just a child, and I think like choosing that kind of thing is so high level that really you have to experience a lot, read the different books and absorb and learn about the different religions to then make an educated decision. So right now I'm not in a stage that I choose one or the other path. So I'm trying to speak from a outside perspective, but at the same time, just to give context, I was born and raised in Spain, which is like a Western country, and also like where Christianity is the religion you are taught since you are a child. But anyways, I feel like um, our society back in the day was pretty Christian, especially in Western world
mm,
side, uh, where the narrative is like be a nice person, work now, and the reward will be later. Don't do
mhm,
anything outside the line. And and now it's like the world has become either half, like I would say, even anti-Christianity, anti that. I don't know
sure.
if I'd say it, but kind of they are rejecting that idea of Christianity and family and having kids and that kind of narrative. And the space left has been filled with Eastern philosophy and Eastern religions, like um, like any Asian religions that foment more being in the present moment and that kind of thing.
Mhm,
To me, the beautiful thing is in learning the good thing about both things. Like people are super polarized these days. Like either you are
yeah.
this or that, either you agree with this side or the other, either you are one of us or not, or are against us. Either you are from one team or the other. So there is an energy, an aim for people to be so polarized that I think like that makes us to miss many good things about many parts. So in this aspect, I would say like I think like religions in general, and in this case Christianity, holds a lot of good values and has done a lot of good things. They have done also awful things, and religion has been an excuse to start many wars and these kind of things. But
Yeah.
nowadays, to get back onto what we were saying, I think like we are switching from a Christianity thing where you surrender in this life and you will have your reward in the afterlife and everything, to something that is like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to live in the present moment, YOLO.
Mm.
So it's like today is today, and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do. So
Right, right. Yeah, that's
I think
interesting.
it's a balance.
Yeah, and I would agree too. It is a balance. And it's interesting, like you bring up Christianity, and just for context, like I'm Christian, but I know like there's a difference between Christian society and you know what I believe like is described in the Bible. It seems like throughout culture, and like you said, like there have been people in periods of time and movements where that that the spirit of like no, you got to be this, you got to believe this, the like the polarization, it's been horrible and led to a lot of tragedy. um, but it's interesting to see how you know how in Christianity how the purpose is, it's to follow Christ and to believe in Him, and um, it's not necessarily a like this or that. It's trying to think of a great way of explaining it, but
It's so fucking funny because now it's like people are rejecting so much that idea of God or Jesus Christ or everything
uh-huh.
that we use euphemisms like no, I trust the universe, I trust life,
Yeah.
universe, higher energies, or that kind of thing. Which at the
Hmm.
end of the day is like I think we can pretty much 98% of the population can agree that there is something else about us.
Yeah.
Some have one theory with aliens, some one with gods, and some ones with higher energies. No matter what, it's like that, but maybe we are going too far and people are like, where are we going with this? But the thing is like, I think like, especially in your 20s, you have to live a life where you are open to experimentation because you have to be aware that you have so much time in life to try different things. So don't marry an idea of yourself. Don't identify
Mm.
with one kind of things that can do something. But at the same time, don't fuck up too much. In a sense,
Right.
like you have to develop an awareness of what's a way to explore and what doesn't,
Mm.
so is if you spend your whole 20s just partying and hooking up and that kind of thing, you are going to end in your 30s with no money, no relationships, maybe no friends, because to be honest, like in parties, that kind of friendship is arguably not real relationship. um,
Hmm.
and yeah, and without being built a future. And I think there is a balance where you don't have to put too much pressure in your 20s, because right now I think we live in a phase where if you are not a millionaire by the age of 17, you are a fucking loser. Which is fascinating because it's like,
Right.
bro, what the fuck? Like people right now, like truly feel like they are not succeeding if in 3 months or 6 months they are not making 10K a month, which was like even inconceivable back in the day. Like, and first, inflation plays a role that more money now is not like it used to be back in the day. $1 million back in the day, you were truly a millionaire. Now it's like, okay, you can't even buy a house, but
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but that's another point. But it's like kind of keeping a balance between experimenting and free flowing and trying different things and being open to all the opportunities that the world has, but stacking up, building something on top, which is kind of in the journey that I'm right now. That is like, even though I have too many interests and I would like to say too many talents that I can decide, I still try to focus on one period of time, learn from that, and when I jump into the next stage, I can take so many learnings and so many skills that I learned in that period that still, even if I'm expressed too thin, like everything is stuck up. If you kind of do it the right way, which I'm trying to find that right way, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. That's fascinating, man. To kind of reroute us back to your story. So you're in architecture school, or you see architecture as being a great path to pursue throughout university. You said you were the first or one of the first in your family to go to university. Um, kind of walk myself and the listeners through that kind of stage of your life. And there's a point in another interview that I listened to where you said you kind of had this crisis of identity, and I'd love to talk more about that. But for now, explain kind of your journey there.
Absolutely. So yeah, as I was saying previously, like almost by a miracle, because the level here in Spain, at least the way it works is like you make an exam, a final exam after high school, and that's going to dictate the different degrees you can access. So I was super
Interesting.
lucky that the year the year I got the year of my generation, the marks of architecture drops by a lot,
Nice.
compared to the previous year, and that got me in. And I was like, I mean, at that point, and I don't want to go that way, but it's like, I don't know, thanks life, universe. I mean, it seems like I have to be there. So the first year was amazing, truly amazing. As I mentioned, I wasn't a good student in high school, and I have a hard time because I can't memorize even what I eat or I have for breakfast. So I had a hard time in school because everything is focused in just memorizing long tests and everything and not reasoning things. And even though I was super curious about many things, but it wasn't the way for me, at least. I know it's a fit for many people. For me, it's not. Um, not I even though I, as a spoiler, I dropped out of college at the end, but I'm not against universities. I'm not against schools. Like it's a way to productize the education, and you can fit or not fit. I only see that the only problem is that it seems that it has to be the fit for everyone, and it's not that way. As the same thing, like if you try to design a t-shirt that it fits everyone, is going to be impossible. So that's like my introduction into this stage. But the first year was amazing because all we were doing it was designing, learning about the history of architecture, going to places and visiting things and visiting buildings and more drawing and everything. So it was pretty creative, and I have my best time also meeting new people, new friends, and everything. So I was over the moon. The second year was kind of okay. Like it was kind of that. Maybe I was getting used to that. But one of the things that I enjoy the most about university is kind of you start to be more free. So you don't have to go from 9 to 5 to a school, which is kind of weird how you are training your kids to get used to that 9 to 5. But anyways,
Right.
in university, usually like you have a lot more responsibility and you go to this class, then the other, then you have to do some works on your own. So I was kind of okay. I was enjoying my new friends. I was enjoying this new stage in life. But as I keep going through, I was realizing that there was something missing, and it was that I always liked the idea of architecture because I wanted to start my own studio, my own architecture studio, because I wanted to design my own houses, you know. And even though I was aware that you first have to learn from a master to then work that way, but still I got into the idea, and I know that this is a common thing in universities. I was expecting to be taught how to start and run my own studio, and I was taught how to work for others for life almost. Like you are not going to find the lessons of how to start your own project anywhere, you know. So you just be here and that's it. Surrender to that, you know. So to be honest, was a rough period, and that's touching on what you mentioned. That was a conflict of identity because I've been saying for my whole life that I wanted to become an architect, and I was in the place where I supposed to become an architect, but the idea I had from the experience I was having, it was super different. So, and also it was a combination of many other things, like in the technical aspect, like we started to do less creative things and more like theoretical, more like technical stuff that I know that there are two kind of people, more creative, more structured and everything. So it was like each day was a bit less of what I liked and a bit more of what I wasn't having that idea of. And also like one close friend of mine from the university passed away. So it was like one moment that it was like a shock. Like you can be super young but you don't have anything for granted any day. I know this is kind of stereotypical, but truly, like the life expectancy could be 80 years old, but anything can happen. So you better be happy each day of what you are doing. Um, which happiness is another thing that I don't really like the idea of happiness as it is, or at least the idea of you have to always be happy. Just to touch briefly on that topic, I think like life will be better if people, instead of focusing on always being happy and trying of demoting like other emotions like sadness and angry and different things that we have to experience. I truly believe that everyone in every moment can be grateful, because either you are learning from a bad experience or you are grateful for experiencing something great in your life in that moment. But that was, as you know, and you can see, like I go from one topic to the next. But coming
It's
back,
all good. It's all
um,
good. It's really, yeah. Just to touch on that,
yeah, go for it.
there's a difference, like you said, between, you know, it's strange because you see people, and this isn't a dig on them, but you see them or you talk to them and you ask how they are, or you look at their online profiles, social media, and it looks like they're happy all the time, or it looks like they're just living the perfect life. Whether you see it in images or you just hear it in conversation through talking with them, but like the human experience, the human life is so much more than just happiness. You know, we experience, you know, joy, we experience happiness, but we also experience like sadness and deep sadness sometimes. And you know, it's the human life or the human experience is much more and much more complex than a lot of us let on to
Absolutely.
be. Yeah, how did you kind of process that those emotions, those maybe deeper or more complex emotions in that specific time of your life?
Yeah. So it was tough because it was a period that first I wasn't prepared, and second, um, no one was teaching me how to process that thing. And as you mentioned, like not only on social media, which is a big thing that we can touch later, but also like in society in general, like it's not super promote, especially in men. And I'm sorry to say this, but especially men, it seems like we can't have emotions, we can cry, and we can't, I don't know, just have, like we can be angry, but we can't cry, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
so that's a lot of tense. And anyways, for me it was a lot that now I'm super grateful of that thing, of that a few periods of time, because it really changed the way I was living my coming years and my attitude towards life. But it was a key moment that I think I have to experience for the following thing. Not only I was facing an identity crisis, I was saying forever that I had to become an architect, or that I was going to become an architect. And the worst part is not with myself. Like I was okay with myself changing opinion. It was that I have to face a lot of resistance from how other people perceive yourself. So with the best intention and everything, but it's like now your family is like, oh, you are going to become an architect, and your friends and everything. So it's kind of everyone's builds an identity towards you. And just for the sake of simplicity, we want to have everyone in control. So if you have someone who makes a change or who do that, it's like you are going to face resistance, because they want to know what they want to know what to expect from you. I know, and I
Mm-hmm.
think this is a survival instinct in a sense, you know. So, so that was one thing. The other thing, as I was mentioning, I lost a close friend of mine, and that was super hard. But especially for me, helped me to navigate some emotions, because I didn't mention, but when I was years old, my father passed away. So I live that with a lot of innocence, because at that age you don't really realize, like, you can face the idea that you are not going to see your father again, but you are not really proceeding. The thing is, like, to be honest, I don't know if anyone has experienced this at that early age or maybe later, but from a child's perspective, what you understand is, like, if your father has gone through the other side of the planet, but you don't really conceive that you are not going to see him again ever. So it's kind of, I think it's a way that you protect yourself, in a sense of believing that there is a chance, in a way. But as I live that with that amount of innocence, I didn't process a lot of emotions. I don't even remember to cry, and I have asked my mom if she remembers me crying, and I think, like,
Mm.
I just was I was rejecting the idea that I didn't were going to see my dad again. So it's pretty fascinating, because I came through my childhood and then my teenager days and then my early 20s without even, it seems like it didn't have an impact on myself. But when I lost my friend, I wasn't crying for him only. I also were proceeding all the emotions that I had hold on inside myself through when I was 8 years old and through all those years. So it was fascinating to see, and it was an explosion. Like, you can imagine, first you are deconstructing your identity and the perceived image that people have of you, and also in the inside, you are proceeding a lot of trauma and a lot of emotion that you haven't dealt for plus 10 years. I don't know, probably 12 years. So that was a lot, to be honest. That was a lot. And I have to teach myself to have emotions, to be honest. Because
Mm.
also, like, I didn't have anyone, like, on the other side, like, for example, just to touch on this, my mom is super emotional. Like, she can cry for a movie or for use of happiness. And for
Uh-huh.
me, I was like cold, like a cold stone that I couldn't process emotions. So I wasn't emotional from a movie or from happiness or anything. And I'm trying still to this day to go through this and being able to allow myself to have emotions and to go through sadness and to go through happiness to the maximum, because
Mhm.
and that's why now I have mm, a strong thinking and a strong idea about that pursuing happiness all the time is absolutely destroying yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That yeah, it's interesting how, like I said, we see the moments of happiness. We see other people maybe experiencing a life that we want to live, and when we aren't achieving that, we you know are trying to figure out, like, what's wrong. Why can't I feel this? But like you said, that our lives aren't just 100% happiness all the time, and the pursuit of that is more detrimental because life has so much more to offer. And it's the distinction is, gratefulness. Like, I could be going through a hard time. I could be, struggling with finding my identity, or trying to just to grapple with severe and traumatic experiences in life. But I could still be grateful for what I have, what I've been given, and the potential future. So again, thank you for sharing that. Um, so you
Yeah,
kind of
and
come to
also
this
that,
place. Go ahead.
no, just to briefly touch on one thing that you also mentioned, like, The problem with this is that I think back in the day, society didn't encourage us to show emotions. Once
Mhm.
again, I truly think, like, especially on men. But now, touching on happiness, the other thing is that social media has
Mhm.
created a distorted idea of reality in a sense, like, for example, Instagram, we are not seeing someone's life. We are seeing the highlights of someone's life. In a YouTube vlog, we are not seeing someone's day. We are seeing 10 minutes of his day, summarizing that thing, but that's not his whole day, And
Mhm.
and this is one of the reasons that I love Twitter, because I think it lays a bit in the middle between Instagram being like something superficial, because at the end of the day you are seeing the outside of someone, not the inside. And on the opposite, you have LinkedIn, for example, that I don't know, like I think like people are a bit fake there,
Mhm.
like every place, like there is a bit of everything. But I truly feel like everyone is building themselves as a god, and the social media makes you build a facade. I'm super wise. I have 100 years of experience on anything. And the other
Right.
thing on Instagram is like I live into my full. Like I maybe have $5 in my bank account, but I'm drinking a Starbucks coffee. I don't know, that kind of thing. And that's why I love Twitter, because at the end of the day, you can also upload pictures and everything, but the social media is more focused on just sharing your thoughts, and as you only have
Mhm.
to type them, and you are not allowed to over expand on that kind of thing. It's like quick thoughts, maybe elaborated and maybe summarized and synthesized, but this kind of has more deep and more meaning, because even though you are just seeing words, I think that's more intimate than seeing someone's picture, because you are only seeing the superficial. And I can fake like being like this for a second of the picture, but maybe I'm crying inside me. So yeah, just to briefly touch on social media and the spectrum from different social media and how it plays a role to build a digital identity in each one of those.
Right. Yeah. And I want to kind of touch on that more later on. But to continue this story, so you decide to drop out of architecture school. What comes after that? Where are you kind of at in this stage of your life, and what comes next?
Yeah. So not only because, as I mentioned, I was through an identity crisis and I was processing a lot of trauma and everything, but on top of that, like especially the last few years, people has romanticized the idea of dropping out of
Mm.
anything or quitting your job. And I mean, I don't know the experience of other people, but to me, it wasn't easy. It's not that cool thing to do, and I don't think it should become a trend. It should be just a medium and something that is possible if you are in that situation. So it's like it's not that you can do it, but it's not also that you should do it in a way.
Mm.
Um, but I finally did it, and for me it was like an strategic decision, because the thing I was lacking of in architecture, it wasn't the thing, the idea of architecture. It was that they weren't teaching me how to build my own studio. So I kind of like going back through my childhood, as always, like yeah, I had like the design part, but I was missing like kind of like the building things, the building projects. So I decided to look where could I get that entrepreneurial knowledge, and I found out that in Denmark, in Copenhagen, like there is a school that was teaching a master that was architecture plus entrepreneurship. So for me, it was like the
Wow.
real deal, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything to go there, like everything. And it's super funny because when you are applying for this kind of thing, you have to build a CV, build a portfolio, build a motivational letter, build a lot of things that is kind of building your identity. So it's kind
Uh
of,
huh.
I went from my old self to trying to build a new identity for myself and everything. Um, But another time, like similar to when I entered architecture school and I have that luck that the mark to enter lowered. In this situation, COVID exploded. We were all in our house, and all the international applications were rejected. So basically, I was like, okay, so it seems like this is not going to be the way, but I already formed an idea in myself that I couldn't spend another day in my university. It was something that I hated, like it was consuming myself.
Yeah.
So I decided I had to find another way, and now the second miracle I would say like happened, which was like I decided that I wanted to have enough credits, like credits in terms of the school system, like a university system, that I can convalidate and study later. So I closed like a phase, and maybe I can study later the master. But I wanted to give myself like a couple of years of experimentations with entrepreneurship, and I wanted to find a way to do that. So this is a funny story I have told a few times, but to summarize, I, I used to meet my last school work, like my last university work, and it was in the middle of pandemic. So even though it was a Friday afternoon, I had nothing to do and nowhere to go. So I decided to go back to my old friend YouTube, and I found like a tutorial on how to learn how to model 3D things. And I was like, okay, let's jump into this. So I spent my whole weekend like back like the old days, like just going from one tutorial to other to learn that 3D thing. And I uploaded everything to Instagram stories. And the Monday morning, someone came into the DMs and told me like, hey, are you this looks cool. Like he replied to my story, and said like, this looks cool. Are you working for someone, or are you doing this just for what? And I was like, I kind of briefly explained the situation, like an overview of the thing, but basically saying that I was free and open to anything. And he mentioned like, okay, so I have a project. It's a startup, and we are looking for some help in the thing of design, and it seems like you have a bit of an idea of that. So do you want to join? And I was like, at that time that I had nothing to lose. I was literally saying for 2 years I'm going to try and experiment with entrepreneurship, and now I had the opportunity to jump into a startup, which to me, like the knowledge you can learn in 10 years in a company, you can compress that in 3 months of a startup. And it was like, of course, and I jumped all in. And I always say this kind of thing, but maybe we can do a pause if you want to comment something in between. But I always say like I started by the bottom as the Drake song, but literally I always say like this is the digital version of bringing coffees in the office, which I was designing the post for Instagram. So it's kind of if you ever started a project nowadays, like the thing is like when you have some free times, you do some Instagram because it's the thing to do. You have to have a presence in social media. And I was responsible for doing that, but I took that job so seriously, like if I was designing a rocket ship to Mars, like I was analyzing everything, the performance, how to improve it from one day to the other, and it was a lot of iteration process. And I did that for like 4 months. Like when I entered was like around May or something like that, April, May, and in September, this founder, which I ended up developing a good relationship with him, and to this day I consider him like if he was my older brother, which I don't have brothers, so it kind of plays that role. And he told me like we are in a rough situation. Like we started with some friends and family money, but we have overscaled the team. We were like 32 people at that time, and the startup was like 6 months old, maybe. And he was mentioning like, we are running out of money, and if we don't raise capital from now to 2-3 months, we are going to be in serious trouble. And I was like, man, whatever I can do, like I'm all in. And at that point, I can only offer like almost emotional support, like just listening to
Right.
the situation, because I was in my side, like just designing those Instagram posts. Because so the situation got worse, and it's funny like how in life like you have some things that works pretty well, almost like magically or miraculously, and there are some things that seems like it's getting worse, and it gets even worse, but there is a lesson there. That so I'm learned to embrace those periods. But getting back to the story, basically we got fucked up. Like we had no money as a project, and he had to make an announcement to the team, which basically was saying like, we have no money, we have no guarantee of when are we going to raise money, and we appreciate anyone staying here, but we want to be super transparent about the situation, and we understand anyone leaving, but the ones staying, we are going to make sure we can reward them in the future, but there is no guarantee, So that was me just after 6 months of dropping out of university, being designing Instagram posts in a startup, and in my mind, I had nothing to lose. I was like, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. Like, if you allow me to stay, I'm staying here, even if you can't pay me. Like, I just honestly want to learn as much as possible, and this seems like a great opportunity to learn from a quote unquote bad situation or a challenge. So I was all in, and as many people left, many people from the design department left, and that allowed me to do broader work, more touching on things, for example, like designing the pitch decks. So we spent literally 6 to 7 months daily, and I say daily, I'm including weekends, and when I say every day, I'm saying like 14 hours a day, just basically going through the concept, the strategy, analyzing, doing market research, iterating the deck, getting into investors meetings, getting rejected, learning from the experience, doing that all over again, to the point that one day I took the time to look how many versions of the deck we did, and the number was close to 400 versions in 7 months.
You gotta be kidding.
Which I don't know how. Yeah, literally. That's almost like 1.5 versions per day, so almost close to 2 versions per day. So I learned iteration the hard way, we could say.
Right. How are you feeling kind of in that process of like, so you're in this company and the CEO says, we're running out of money. We don't have a plan forward. You decide to stay. You decide to use this opportunity to almost apprentice in a live setting and learn as much as you can. And you start to broaden your design skills. During this time, like, how are you feeling? What's kind of going through your head?
I was kind of naive. I would say like I was kind of like in my teenagers days, maybe kind of like trying no, I don't know, to make a comparison, like I didn't proceed the thing I was experiencing by the loss of my father. This was kind of a situation where I wasn't proceed what was going on. I was just in the present, and I was like, I was all fucking in. I didn't have even questions. I see everything as an opportunity because, for example, and at that time, and that's why also like many people now see many young people just being 15, 16 years old, starting a business and being super successful. And I think that's definitely possible with the current technologies. But if you don't feel ready, working for someone else is an amazing experience. It's one of the best things that you can happen, because you can collect all the experience almost without the responsibility of running that project. And maybe this place that we have different personalities, I am aware that I'm not like an alpha leader, so I can lead, but if there is some leader, I listen to him and I do that, but I know that I have leadership skills with some teams and everything. So in that situation, I was like, bro, I know that one day I want to start my own project, but right now I don't have no fucking idea. So this seems like a great opportunity to learn about it, you know? So I wasn't questioning too much things. And at the same time, it is not right to say it, but it felt like progress because I knew, because just to give context, the startup was about gaming and was about blockchain technology and was about crypto and this kind of thing. And I've never been a huge gamer, probably because my mom gave me more Legos and books and things to paint on more than
Yeah.
the PlayStation. So I wasn't of I was in my childhood, yeah, I have one, but at the end of the day, I didn't develop that interest. And funny enough, like this is not an excuse because I have seen so many people that asking about their backstory, like they spend their whole childhood and teenage days spending hours and hours playing Call of Duty or whatever the fuck they were playing, and they learn that gamification aspect, that life is a game, and keep going through challenge and upgrading your avatar and character and going through different phases, which I think holds a lot of value. So there is no one right way or the other. But yeah, I was in that startup. I have no fucking idea about gaming. I was learning that kind of thing of blockchain because as I came from design, I didn't have too much contact with the technology and everything. And for me, it was such an opportunity because we were from being 32 in a startup that I just joined to being like five. So it was like two founders, another two, and myself.
Oh my
Have
gosh.
you seen like that meme? Have you seen that meme that is like kind of like there is one a guy dressed up as Big Bird in an office? I don't know if you have seen. I will send you later the image. Maybe you can
Okay.
put it right here. But it was like I felt kind of out of place, but at the same time like learning a lot. And now jumping from designing just Instagram posts to designing the investor decks allowed me to absorb a lot of information from many aspects: how to present a project, how to analyze a problem, how to spot the opportunity, how to analyze trends, how to analyze a market, how to present a solution, how to present your platform in this case, how to explain why your team is the best, how to explain how you are going to make money, even though you are inventing that, because no one can predict how much money you are going to make. That's funny little things. Um Overall, I was learning a lot of many aspects, and as you can not tell, you can tell at this stage, like I just love learning. So in that moment, I wasn't suffering a lot in a sense. I was just pursuing that idea of one day succeeding, you know?
Mm. Yeah, that's incredible. I can resonate with the whole startup experience where you are in a situation, and I love what you said about 10 years of working maybe a 9 to 5 is condensed in 10 months or 3 months of working in a startup, because it really is like
Literally.
in a startup you have to you own your own department, or you own what
Yeah.
responsibilities you have, and from there it you know a lot of success or failure is based on you. Like you're holding a lot of weight and responsibility. So that's just funny how that is, and it's cool to see how your love and your passion for learning was almost like supercharged through this opportunity of, maybe being in a place that didn't have as much structure, but it had a lot of opportunity for growth and for learning. And I think there's a lesson there, like, you know, be grateful for the things that you have, but also if a situation is less structured or less maybe free flowing, play to your
Yeah.
skills, learn in the process, or maybe if you're more structured and you're in an environment that's more free flowing, learn the skills of, setting boundaries or setting structures to your day, and developing that in yourself.
Yeah. Also, another lesson that I took from that thing is like the same way I regret when I was deciding if I wanted to do architecture or other things, that I've never came across the concept of entrepreneurship or that thing, which, by the way, just as a summary, I don't regret at all studying architecture. I love the time I was there, and I also learned to leave a place when you don't feel like you belong anymore. And that doesn't mean that before it wasn't bad. It's the same as relationship, where many people, when they leave a relationship, they start talking too so bad about the place they were, and it's like at that time you decided to be there and be there present, and it has a lot of good moments. So embrace that, and the moment that is not working, try to see if there is a way to make it work it out. But if it seems like now there are two separate paths, embrace that and change, and don't throw trash at the previous stage. So just to summarize, like to this day, I love architecture. I realize that I love architecture. I love learning about architecture. I keep buying myself books about architecture. I keep watching documentals, and I know one day I will be involved with in the architecture space in one way or another. But I realized that what I didn't want to become is the traditional idea of an architect. So that's why I left, So this was used to say that the same way that I wish when I was 17 years old to see the whole spectrum of opportunities that there was. I think when people jump into entrepreneurship, they feel like they have like 5 options maximum. Like, and depending on the moment, there is one trendy business, but it's like, drop shipping, Amazon FBA agency, Facebook ads agency, and two others, So
Right.
there are, oh my God, there are endless different kind of business, and it's like we are just seeing like so little options that one of the things that I'm more grateful of is that I surrendered to the moment and to the opportunity that was in front of me. And that got me into a whole different ecosystem, which was a startup in a whole different world that was blockchain, in an inner space that was gaming. And that built my story in a different way that probably many others pursuing entrepreneurship. Because if you talk with someone, and I started myself that I was trying everything on the side at the same time in university and in the startup and everything, like, because I can't concentrate on one thing. But I was trying at the same time all the different business models just to check what could be working on. But now I'm grateful that this is my story, and I'm grateful that this is my path. And that's why I like to say, like, I'm a person with too many interests and talents, and embrace people to follow their interests and talents, because it seems like people just buy a package, a narrative of success, where you see someone on YouTube that has succeeded doing one thing, and you see him on vacation, or on a specific apartment or house, or with some cars, or doing something, and it's like you are buying that end result, and you don't fucking care about the medium. So is this Facebook ads agency? Okay, all in. Or is this the other? And that's first. If he started that thing, probably was because of a background, of a specific background. So didn't have to be your story. And also, like, if you meet someone and what did you do? Well, I have a drop shipping, and it's like, whoa, and the conversation ends, you know? So,
Right.
so it's like just, I know it sounds super fucking stereotypical, and I hate myself for saying this, but it's like truly like follow your fucking interests and the thing that you enjoy when you were a fucking kid, because that tells you a lot more than you expect. And your child, when you were a child, you knew better what you wanted to do than what you know now.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Uh, Something that I've been doing recently, because I've heard that a lot, but I always just internally I was like, oh, that's not, like follow your child or your inner child, or reflect on your childhood imagination. Like I kind of like brush it off, but recently I have been going on a lot of walks or just reflecting on like the younger version of myself and what I was interested in. And it's true, like there are many things, and it's strange. Like I wonder where a lot of these interests start or how they're influenced. But like, you know, yeah, whether it's you playing with Legos as a kid, or you I don't know, maybe traveling a lot as a kid, that influences your interests and your passions as an adult. And being able to reflect on that and see that, and then play to your strengths as an older person, it's almost like a superpower. It's kind of weird to do that and see just the benefits of it.
It's amazing because now that we are entering a moment that personal brands are becoming a thing and everyone is talking about it, I always say, like, if you have a name, you have the potential of a personal brand. And this is because you have a name, okay? And you experience something that even if you have a twin, your twin didn't experience the same life as you did. Could be similar, right, but it's completely different in a way. So the more you embrace that thing, the better it's become. For example, someone that I admire a lot and I'm trying to learn a lot from him is Daniel Dalen, okay? And for example, his background, like he spent, I think it's because his father was traveling to there, so at some point he went with him. But the thing is that when he was 16, he was in China. So he is originally from the Netherlands, and he was in China. And now he's a guy who knows how to speak Chinese Mandarin, and that's super authentic because it's like not many people has that background. And even if you find people that has that background, you are going to emphasize a lot. But how many people you can tell that truly like impress you and says like, no, I have a Facebook ad agency. Okay, like one, you say Imangachi or whatever, because that's a huge figure. But it's like, are you truly enjoying that? Because, for example, like, now I'm going from one place to the other, but I have a good relationship with one person that is called Adam, okay? And he has a community where he has people that is making over 100K, okay, to find purpose in life and also to improve physically and mentally and this kind of thing. His community is called Mind Plus, and he's not paying myself for doing this. But the thing is like really fascinating. When I had a conversation with him, he reflected on this idea, which was like, whoa, this, and you mentioned in the beginning of the call, whoa, these people I have in my community has make it, economically or financially because they have achieved that success, but maybe they hate what they do, or they love the process of doing, but they couldn't give a fuck about what they're truly doing. So now they don't find meaning in life, and they have to go through a lot of things emotionally and physically, and they have to find a new journey. So he's doing a great job in that. But it's, as you mentioned, like, what is a better journey? Like a common walk where everything is like a blueprint and you are just following and taking steps, or just getting lost and going from one place to the other, and you can only look back and connect the dots and say, wow, what a fucking journey this was,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, but like, sometimes that following that blueprint for some people is the way that makes sense for them. It's the way that they can get through life, and it kind of matches their goals or their pursuits. But for some people, it doesn't work. It's like, I have a couple friends who are now parents who, are my age, who are, got married very, very early and had kids. And it's interesting to hear their experience and say, like, yeah, every kid is different. Like, their personalities, and you even mentioned it too, like, even twins have different experiences, and they're going to perceive life or have different life experiences that are completely different or separate from one another. But it's really like finding what you love, pursuing your interests, and going from there. So to kind of like round out this conversation, I want to like take us to the present. So you're working at this startup. You at some point raise 10 million euros. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, like especially here in Spain, which is not a country, it's a country that people rather work for the state to have a secure job than to being an entrepreneur. Like, the thing is changing, and more entrepreneurs are getting in, but it's not the best country to start a business or a startup. And this was huge, and the craziest thing is that we achieved that in like 2 months. Okay, so I could expand on through how that was it, because it kind of sounds like the kind of thing like, yeah, and suddenly boom. But it was a lot of work, and it's literally that visual that nothing happens into everything happens, and the exponential results that have helped me now that I'm in a stage that I'm starting my own projects and everything, to understand that you have to go through the process, and the more you focus on each step, the faster you are going to get there. Instead, if you focus only on the goal, you forget to take the steps, and it gets away and away and away. But yeah, touching on two things, like, first, I hate to say this, but what you mentioned is super true. Like, all those platitudes and sayings and everything hold a lot of truth, that we are so tired of hearing that, but at the same time are so true that it's kind of like you have to walk the talk, and you understand that the talk was right, that was true,
Right.
So, but still you have to go through it to truly understand it, because I understand that you get tired of hearing that kind of things without experiencing. Anyways, going fast forward to today, to the present moment, it was fascinating. It was something almost unbelievable, to the point that, for example, not only in 2 months, like, all the investor rounds started to go well, and just to leave a tip on how it worked, we were trying to pitch investors and no one was listening to us. We started to look for partnerships, and there are some companies with big budgets for innovation that are super happy to give you resources and let them use your name. In our case was IBM, Microsoft, and a couple blockchain networks, Polygon and Chainlink. And once we had those names, the conversation flew super well. And I think it happens a lot in life. For example, I've seen this in Twitter, where there are so people super creative, providing a lot of value, that only have like hundreds of followers, 100, 200, 300, or even 500, no matter the thing. But no one is paying the attention they deserve. It's just time is going to catch up. So it's a game of consistency, because on those 7 months of just doing decks, we could have given up any moment, but we didn't. And that's why we get into that thing. Those founders, Borja and Nico, taught me a lot of perseverance and trusting in your thing and keep going, and trusting that things will get better, but trusting while making actions, So yeah, going back to the tip is like find partners, and that partners are going to help you to go through the conversation. Applying that to life, build a persona that is worth listening, and if you have to build a profile with 1,000 followers or do whatever, like just surrender to the game, and if that's the game, is the game. You accept it while playing, so better play it and win it, So we got the partners, the conversation with investor started to go well. The founders started to make trips to other countries where they were more keen to listen to us. Everything was super fast, to the point that in December 2021, we were traveling to Abu Dhabi to one event of Formula One and everything. And especially because in December in Spain is super cold, especially in Madrid. And Abu Dhabi, it was like kind of summer, like 25 degrees Celsius. So, well, summer-like. And I was like, bro, is this real? Like, I was truly thinking about that. And the 6-hour flight, I was thinking, am I dreaming? Like, literally, I was like in that stage where it's like, wait a minute, I'm about to wake up. Is this a dream? Like, this is too crazy, like, and no, it wasn't a dream. I didn't wake up yet. And it was happening. And well, long story short, the last year was another learning experience. As we have more resources and more funds, we got a bigger team. And this team were from people older than us. So we got into the project some gray hairs, as we usually say, so to bring that expertise and experience and another perspective. I got matched with a CMO, which I learned a lot from him. And once again, I was like, I was his right hand, and I was learning a lot from him. But at the end of this last year, December 2022, I was feeling like those 3 years were crazy. Like from when I began and started like designing Instagram posts to traveling the world, going to conference, giving speeches and doing the craziest stuff. And I felt like I learned a lot and was super grateful. But I also felt like I had an opportunity cost of not focusing on myself, because also as any startup, like when they rise, it becomes more structured, more corporate, more hierarchy, and it's absolutely okay. It's the way to go, but I truly love like the early stage phases. So I wanted to jump into doing my own thing, my own projects. So in January 2023, for the first time since ever, I had no plans. I had no idea what's going to be the next day. And to be honest, I was burned out. I was overworked. I had too much stress, and without realizing, I spent the whole month recovering physically, giving myself time to sleep, giving myself time to do nothing, go on walks, have no structure in the day, have no plans, no schedule, no calls and everything. But in the same time, I was being consistent and diligent and building my personal brand, and I started by Twitter. And that got me a lot of clarity. I think like right now my process, or it's something that I'm trying to help others go through, if they find me in the same places. As I mentioned earlier, Twitter is an amazing platform to start if you don't know where to start. And I've been seeing like people rediscovering the platform even though it's not new. And there are two kind of people that come. Either people with a lot of experience and expertise that now jumps into Twitter to find new connections and find a way to build their persona. And the other kind is people that maybe they are younger, maybe they don't have everything figured out, but they have a lot of potential, and they are just experimenting, building a personal brand and figuring out in the way. And I think like just going just to set some numbers from 0 to 1,000 followers, just to set some like a carrot to follow, is like a great way to give yourself time to iterate, experiment, share thoughts, share things, see what resonates, any kind of opportunity to you have to jump into the DMs and start a conversation with someone, do it. People are super keen there. Then if you can like jump into conversation, you never know who you are going to meet. Huge tip in my experience, like the profile with less followers and sometimes the less curated profile with weird pictures or banners or things like that are the most amazing people, like in many different ways. And it's like they just deserve to have more exposure, but that's come with time and consistency. But yeah, once you cross 1,000 followers, probably you have accumulated enough conversation and enough things to identify common struggles. The second phase is to look for a transformation that you can help someone go from point A to point B based on your story, your experience, what you have came across, what you resonate with. And finally, this is not the thing you have to do. I think this is more flexible and there are many other ways to do it. But if you can't, either find or start a community. I think true magic happens in community. It's kind of an energy of building together. And that's where I am today, to be honest. Like just figuring out on the way, trying to find more clarity and trying to see how can I truly put my experience and my background at the service of helping others and build together.
Yeah, that's incredible. You mentioned the power of community and of being in a community of builders. Talk more about that and specifically your community of builders, the becoming self.
So there is one thing, just to don't expand too much on this, but I think like in the info product space or online learning, they rejected a lot the idea of school. And I understand why, because the knowledge was obsolete and it wasn't kind of scalable and sometimes restrictive. But at the same time, like I think online learning or online courses lack one thing that started to become more protagonist. So when you purchase like an online program, usually you have like 80% was the course itself and 20% was that they have a Telegram or Discord community or a Slack community, you know? But it happened something that this was pretty funny because it's exactly what the info product space criticized about universities, which was their content got obsolete. Like things move too fast, and what you recorded 2 years ago, probably it gets outdated, and you have to repackage and rebuild the program and repeat it again, and that kind of thing. And also, like, you are just talking one thing and you seem like you have to be an expert and you are like kind of on the stage and that kind of thing that I think is too rigid for the current age that we live where everything is so flexible and we have to adapt, you know? So I'm not saying that this is the only way to go, but I think it has some positive aspect, which is like now communities seems to be like 80% is the community and 20% is like maybe there is some pre-recorded knowledge, but the true value is in the connections between the community. And this also like then we enter like a space, like there are many ways to go in community. But for example, something that I've been finding is like communities are not hyper scalable. So I see that many creators, when they started to build their personal brand, they started to build a newsletter. And I thought to myself, Well, newsletter is okay, and if you like writing, it's okay. But I also think like people are oversubscribed to newsletters, so I don't know how many people have the time to read through that. I wanted to do something different. I jumped into communities. I thought that it was the holy grail, and I now understood that it has its limitation because it's not as scalable as, for example, a newsletter, a course, or a template, a Notion template, where the more members there are, the less engagement it builds. Because, well, I'm going to be known for this metaphor, but I tweeted this, and I know that, I always say that communities are like a party where you don't want to make it so big that the police come, but you don't want it to be so small that you can hear the silence. And when I came with this idea, I thought like, oh, I genius, but it's truly resonates. It truly resonates my experience where at the beginning I jumped into building a community with the idea of making like I want thousands of members here, and then I realized that the best learning experience is in small groups. So a limited community. I don't know the number. I don't know if it's 100 members, 15, 50, 1,000. I don't know. But a limited community, depending on the case, is a better learning experience, and that's exactly what got us back to the high school and university, where the aim, and especially private university, what they brag about is that they have small groups, and that's the thing. Like in small groups, like we can learn a lot more because we can network and we can know each other, and we can share things and we know what each one is working on, but still allow us to build different things and share different experience. For example, in the community, we have people that are writers, we have people that design websites, we have people that are graphic designers, video editors, entrepreneurs, community builders, people just figuring out and that kind of thing, or psychologists. So I think that combination of different people in different stages, but all of us with the same common goal of developing our personal brand and building an authority and being able to make a living out of our passion, get us together and we can exchange all that knowledge. And I truly, truly think that's beautiful.
It really is. And just speaking from being in the community and being a part of other communities that are similar, being around like-minded people and being united under a kind of a central mission or a central goal is just phenomenal. Like speaking with people in your community in particular, like I've talked to some, guys off air, and just there's so much knowledge and so much wisdom in their experience and in their lives and in what they're doing. And like I said, being a part of that community is just like it supercharges your ability and your insights and your perspective almost. And it's unbelievable. That on top of, like you go on there, you'll teach, you'll post really insightful posts that really get you to think and kind of continue to push this narrative of like, follow your interest and pursue that and be in community and be a part of a tribe almost of people that kind of feel the same way. So it's just unbelievable. And you've been doing this community now for 5-8 months, maybe longer.
No, actually, like I look back because I wanted to make a post. I started the 15th of February, so it's kind of like right now it's like 1 month and a half. Yeah, 1 month and a half, more or less.
Wow.
So I'm truly impressed by kind of the growth, not only in Twitter and everything, but especially in the community, because I'm super grateful and surprised, to be honest, about how fast we built a group of as you mentioned, like-minded people and also people that I truly admire. Like it's fascinating that I'm being able to help in some way, but I'm the number one fan of them because of what they are doing. That it is fucking amazing, to be honest.
Right, right. Well, you definitely created something awesome, and I love just hearing your story now and seeing like you. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I perceive you as, being like a coach or someone who has, you know, a lot of experience and a lot of just phenomenal wisdom to give out, but you do it in a way that's very practical and very, you know, you're not a traditional CEO or brand builder who is kind of off in the distance, but you're in the trenches with the community and with people, and you're coaching them to yeah, see what their passions are, explore what that is, and learn how to monetize that. And it's just incredible. But to kind of wrap up, Adrian, and on the topic of finding passion, finding your voice, as a last kind of question, what would be your advice to someone who's either new to personal branding, new to creativity in general? They're trying to find their interests or discover that. What would be your advice to them, or maybe someone who's just getting started?
Yeah. So I will say I'm going to try to make it as clear as possible. So I will say identify and accept the stage where you are at. So if you are a truly beginner, embrace that and embrace that you don't know a fucking thing. And that's fucking amazing, at least to me, because as I love learning, I love to be in that stage where I discover something new that is like, I have no fucking idea. So when you are in that stage, get yourself together with people who seems like they know their thing. Okay, so look for those kind of quote unquote experts, which touching on that thing, I kind of hate the word because it's like I used to truly think like everyone has a lesson to teach and we can learn from each other. So what I could be an expert on one thing, you could be an expert on the other, and I think there is a lot of ego in the word expert or coach or that kind of thing. But I understand, and at the end of the day, it's easy to tag us. But going back to the topic, I would say first build an audience, then build a transformation, and finally get yourself a community. Okay? So if you are in stage one, it's like find your voice, as you mentioned. So in that thing, it's like you share your raw thoughts, and let's assume that we are talking in a digital space, but personal development in a physical world takes a lot of place. So physical health, talking with people, embracing your relationship with your family, friends, or girlfriend or boyfriend if you have. I'm going to making exercise, eating clean. So I assume that's the basic. Okay, I assume that you are making that. The aim of here is that you want to have more time to do more of what is meant to you. When you have that kind of quote unquote time freedom, you are going to pursue financial freedom. Okay. And finally, you can, with those two, you can be wherever the fuck you want. So that could arrive to location freedom. So, but give yourself time. Give yourself 6 months or even more. 6 months just to begin with, and your whole life to achieve the thing, because fuck, you are doing what you want to do, and I'm talking like speaking to myself and I wish I hear this, but it's like give yourself time, because at the end of the day, for the first time ever, you are building something for you. So the aim is to do it for life, and to allow yourself to change and iterate, but where is the rush? You are already living your best life, the life you want to be. So start with that objective in mind. build an audience, okay? So choose the social media that fits you best. If you are good on camera, go to YouTube. If you are good in creating engaging content, go to TikTok. If you are good looking, go to Instagram or not. I mean, it's like you just choose the social media that seems to fit best with your where you are most comfortable. For me, it was Twitter. I was focusing on there. Share your ideas, share your thoughts, share your personal experience, and you are going to get surrounded with people that resonate with that. So they are going to have some commonalities. Jump into DMs, as we mentioned, jump into calls, have conversations, have no expectations, just genuinely listen and try to understand the other's perspective and listen, like literally, like there is a lack of listening because everyone is like trying to have an answer prepared. So jump into calls without any script, anything prepared. Just flow. Have no intentions. You are just building connections, and that's the game. It's not building followers, it's building connections. But being consistent, and you are going to reach, let's say, to put some metrics that always helps to make to achieve goals. Let's say 1,000 followers. When you get to 1,000, you are entering a new game. You have talked with a few people, you have a few connections, and you are kind of building a few networks. Then you jump into stage 2. You are trying to build a transformation. You are trying to provide value. You are trying to help someone to go from point A to point B. You have talked to a lot of people and you are still able to talk with them. So now, and I will say only now, I mean, you can think before about this, but now start connecting the dots and see common struggles and jump into how can I solve this? Maybe I experienced that and maybe I can came across. So deconstruct that thing, synthesize the process, make a step by step, try to help someone, okay? And the third step, which to this day I don't think is the thing, do whatever the fuck you want, but I think like nowadays, like being part of a community, and if you don't find a community you truly resonate, start yourself one, is an amazing way to deplatform your most close connections into a space you can freely create without being at the mercy of the algorithm and without being at the mercy of changes and anything or being banned or whatever. So in this stage, like just truly build a community and have no expectations and start inviting people for free. Don't think short term like into pricing the thing. Like if you can monetize by other means like freelancing before jumping into this is better because you are going to invite people with better intention. I'm not saying that you can't monetize a community. If you are truly providing value, like you can obviously ask for value in exchange in the form of money, but as much as possible have genuine intention. The whole mind frame of this venture, this journey, is to think like if I was a millionaire, which I'm not, but if I had like 10 million euros or dollars in my bank account or 100 million, like truly are not even considering money. You have escalated the pyramid of Maslow, like you are in the highest level. It's like you are not in survival mode. What you really want to do, what you really want to tell, what gives you energy, and what people you want, which kind of people you want to get surrounded by. Okay, and in all these areas, even though you are progressing horizontally, like going from building an audience to a transformation to a community, you are also keeping these things. So when you reach 1K, you go to 10K, and that's a good way to escalate and get more reach about the transformation you are helping and getting more feedback. And when you are about, let's say, about from 10K to 100K followers, apart from expanding to other social media, like diversifying your presence and growing that personal brand with more authority, then is when you start seeing like you have the potential to create a movement and do it with good intentions. And you have some momentum and some traction to truly like embrace a narrative. And at this stage, I'm not there yet, but I wanted to keep one thing in mind that is like don't be naive. Don't think that you are right, and don't think that that's the only way to go. There are endless opportunities in business, and just because this way works for you, it doesn't mean that it has to work for everyone. So you are trying to look for people that resonate with you, not to pitch people in that you are the truth and it's only that way, and you don't want to make it looks like a religion where people just follow people like if they were gods. I always like to say, like, I'm in the trenches, as you mentioned. I'm still figuring out shit. I don't know nothing. Like, I'm just like you, and I think that's the true power, where you are just one step, maybe farther in the journey, so you can teach and lend a hand to go there.
Beautiful. Adrian, I think you just dropped the entire blueprint for building your personal brand online. That was unbelievable.
We have to.
Well,
we have to still go through the process, but let's figure it out on the way.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was unbelievably valuable. Well, Adrian, where can people find you? Where can people see your work, support you, engage with you?
I would say I'm all over the place, but the best place to follow me right now is Twitter. My name is Adrian B. Bara, typed with letters, which is my surname, and I know it's a weird surname, but yeah. And I would say let's start by there. Let's meet each other. I encourage you to just drop me a DM. They are always open. Let's have a conversation. Let's hop in a call. And yeah, from that point we can see.
Yeah. Yeah. And for all the listeners who might jump on a call with Adrian or connect with him, like I said before, he is probably the most authentic, honest, just realist guys that you've ever met. So don't pass up that opportunity. But Adrian, thank you for your time, and yeah, talk soon, man.
Your pleasure. I appreciate it so much. And no, one day I want to hear your story. So one day we will do this the opposite way. And true honor to be part of your podcast. And you are the reason that I do these things, because I love to connect with people and support on their project too. So yeah, true honor to be here.
Yeah, that same goes to you, man.